Haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, Rolla. Got it.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to Global Kinship, exploring the evolving noosphere. We are a monthly webinar series sponsored by Creation Spirituality Communities. My name is Gail Ransom, and I joined Bob Eisenberger and Penny Andrews on a three-person team to bring you these monthly presentations on the emerging collective human consciousness, what Pierre Desjardins called the noosphere. We're glad you are joining us today. Since we began hardly a year ago, when hardly anybody had heard of the noosphere, many words and efforts have emerged to expand the capacity of human beings to live in positivity, community, and love. Some speak of a new humanity. Many speak of staying hopeful, even as the energy on our planet shifts. Love is in the mix. Genius is in the mix. Generosity is in the mix. Neighborhoods and biomes are in the mix. Brian Swim now speaks of cosmogenesis, co-creating the next epoch in partnership with the cosmic forces. Large-scale contexts require local implementation. We are so glad to have Stephanie Rearick here to teach us how to start that in our own communities. But before we begin, Bob has some instructions and a video to play. So Bob?
Thanks, Gail. It's not wanting to let me spotlight myself. Let me just go ahead and say, the only technical instructions are, we ask that you keep yourself muted unless you are speaking, and we will be getting to a Q&A time, which will give you that opportunity. And when we do, I simply ask that you find the reactions button on your Zoom toolbar and click on the button that says the words raise hand. And that'll put you in line, and we'll be able to call on each other or call on you one at a time. And we do record these sessions, as you see, and we'll be posting this so that, if you want to look at it again or send it to someone else, you'll be able to do that. And that we do have a song to share. We chose this song because it fits both the theme of collective consciousness of the noosphere and of the human mutual aid network that Stephanie is going to talk about today. It was written and performed first by the duo Mammoose and taken up by The Work That Reconnects, a movement led by Joanna Macy in anticipation of what she calls the Great Turning. The song celebrates the way of the earth and its plantings teach us about change. It is a song about creating community, about moving through change together.
I'll be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
What a great start. And what an honor it is to be welcoming Stephanie here this afternoon with us. I've known of her work for some years. I've been a part of the Time Bank for when I was first retired, and I look forward to catching up with what's been going on, because I know her work has gone out globally, and this movement is not just Madison, Wisconsin, if it ever was just Madison, Wisconsin. Stephanie is founder and director of the Madison Mutual Aid Network Cooperative and Humans United in Mutual Aid Networks, a new type of networked cooperative creating means for everyone to discover and succeed in work they want to do with the support of their community. In addition to her work in growing grassroots up economic and community regeneration, Stephanie is co-owner of a coffee house here, a delightful one, and also works as a musician. The mutual aid networks are cooperative networks that create means for this discovery and success in work. The concept of mutual aid, the sharing of resources ranging from food and shelter to healthcare and medicine, rose in the US during the Great Depression. Now, post-COVID, communities around the world have been uniting via grassroots, volunteer-run local initiatives to connect those who can help with those who need help. So, without further ado, welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'll jump right in and I'll just share, I'll give you a little background about myself and how I came to this perspective that turned into our version of mutual aid networks. And then I'll share my screen just to give you an overview. And after the overview, I'll ask each of you to share a bit about who you are and sort of what your dreams are for this community, but we'll have some time to interact about how this could apply in your own lives if we're ready to do that. Penny, ready to go? Cool. All right. Thanks again for having me. So Penny mentioned I am co-owner of a small coffee house. I'm a musician. I do independent original music. It's never been really popular, but I've found sort of small enthusiastic audiences, which is fine. The coffee house, actually, we ended up getting it, my spouse at the time and I, we still run it together. We're still family. But we were playing in a band together and we went to this coffee house in our neighborhood and then we met the owner and like we got along and it was called Mother Fools and our band was called Your Mom. And we ended up playing a show there and she was just excited about excited about the link between the names. And it wasn't very long after she created the coffee house that she was ready to move on. And she decided she wanted us to buy it. And we didn't feel like we could. We both worked for Greenpeace environmental organization at the time. We didn't have money. John, my partner, was a war tax resistor. So we didn't want to have to try to get loans and deal with all that. And a long story short, she made an offer we couldn't refuse. She felt like we would keep it what she wanted it to be. So she was being offered 6 times the money that she ended up selling it to us for. She was being offered it from a local business that was having a bad track record with labor and wages, and a couple other parties who were interested. And she just felt like we would provide the cultural space that she wanted to have carry on and that it would be a neighborhood space open to everyone. And so she financed it herself at 0% interest. We paid a small amount, paying her a direct payment every month for 3 years. So that's how we got into owning a coffee house. And we always still say, so that was 28 years ago. And we're still in business. And I think it fills an important function in the neighborhood. And I will say the only reason we could get in business or stay in business was neighborly economics. There's no way, and we always say this, we never would have done it if we had gone to business school and like known what's expected for a successful business. On paper, numerically, there's nothing about that that's a successful business. However, it's totally successful in ways that count. So anyhow, that's one example. And another example is our landlord was another neighborhood guy, owner of a local appliance selling business. And he sold us the building for great terms for less than what he was being offered, again, to keep it what he wanted it in the neighborhood. Shortly after we bought the place, we had an unexpected remodeling job that we had to do that our city suddenly said we had to have a very small capacity unless we added another bathroom. Right around that time, we had joined in the creation of a local currency, Madison Hours. So we were helping get that going right as our business was starting. And then fortunately, we were able to pay someone Madison Hours to do a whole lot of the construction when we had this unexpected remodeling. And he told us later it took him 10 years, but he spent them all. So I'll get into a little bit about what that means, the local currency aspect and how all that works. But that's all long way to say this neighborly economics has played an essential role in my life. It has given me the opportunity to live the life I choose instead of having to go a path outside of my values or what's charted for me by someone who happens to have money and create infrastructure. And long ago, I realized that neighborly economics has been uniquely available to me. I acknowledge that I have a lot of privilege coming in for a lot of reasons, and a lot of the sort of extra privilege that's turned into having this business and being able to chart this course. A lot of things have come through synergies with art and music community, and finding people who are willing to go out on a limb to realize their dreams or meet different needs. So another aspect of coming to what I have with mutual aid networks is I also have been, I mentioned I worked for Greenpeace, so I was very aware of the fake jobs versus environment conflict that shouldn't be a conflict. I'm very aware of economic drivers of environmental destruction. And also I have become active in the issue of mass incarceration and racial disparities in the criminal system, and was active with that. And again, acknowledging and realizing all the economic drivers of all of that, the economic drivers to preserve an illicit drug market, to have over policing, the economic drivers of criminal behavior, the economic drivers that tear communities apart when pro-social connections are the #1 ways that communities become safe and thriving. So all of those different factors made me realize I needed to look more directly for a solution to the economic underpinnings to all these things. So realizing that all the economic factors were against keeping a business small and local. They all drive you toward expansion and consolidation and selling. Every economic decision, it's always a economic cost to choose to do the right thing environmentally, for example. So our coffee house chose to stop selling bottled water years ago and just give it away for free now. I mean, it's just same with hosting experimental music, for example, or all the economic drivers go the opposite direction to what I would like to see in the world. So in 2004, I picked up a book called The Future of Money by Bernard Lietaer, and that book changed my life. And the #1 way in which it changed my life was the author detailed different times and places that, including now, that the economy has been structured differently and it's driven behavior and society differently. So one example is during times that there was negative interest on money, and I think a lot of medieval times, but I'm not going to say the time periods in case I'm not accurate about it. But so money would lose value if you stored it. There's an incentive to invest in long-term projects and to do maintenance before things fall apart. And during those times, cathedrals were built and they were gathering places for a lot of people. Also talking about intact communities, talking about immigrant communities forever have pooled money. So people without very much money put it together, and one person can take a larger quantity of money, invest it in their future success, pay it back. So things like that. Mutual aid societies and African American practice as from, I think, the early 20th century, around the early 20th century and through the Great Depression, of people coming together and raising money collectively through social functions and through paying dues, raising money that would be used for people's burial expenses and healthcare expenses. So anyhow, all of these different models and different times and places and practices that Bernard Lietaer laid out in this book made me realize it doesn't have to be this way. And there are examples of how it can be different. So to me, that changed everything, and it gave me hope, seriously, for the first time in my adult life, that we could have a future, that we could not only have a future that we could live with, that we could be excited about. So so that's what led me into really diving in to economic redesign, essentially. So I realized because I always have been, we're actors in the economy. We shape the economy through our actions. It feels like something that's done to us, but it is something that we do. So realizing that we could reshape the economy, and it was really important to jump in and try it. So the first thing that I was motivated to do on reading that book was to start a time bank. And I'm going to go into this, but in context of the mutual aid networks, but it bears a specific introduction because it was sort of the lead in to all this for me. Time banking is at a simple level, exchanging time instead of money. But we join together in a network. It's a type of mutual credit network, and people, organizations, whoever you choose to have be part of your network, you're extending credit to each other. Every hour I spend helping another member, an hour goes from their account into my account. It's just tracking work that people are willing to exchange. So if I teach a piano lesson to Penny for an hour, she'll have -1 in her account and I'll have +1 in my account. And then I can take that hour and I can get computer repair, web design. I can spend hours before I earn them. And we treat it very fluidly and very abundant. The reason I was really motivated to start a time bank right when I read about it and right when I came to understand this is I saw the unique place that time banking could play in helping to facilitate and catalyze and reward work that tends to be very demeaned by the market economy. The work that is by its nature infinitely abundant and infinitely important. So caregiving, creativity, community building, and civic engagement. All of that stuff, all of the very abundant and very essential stuff of life, I saw time banking being really specifically positioned to be able to help facilitate much more of that stuff. And there are a lot of ways that we could go that I'm not going to share about ways that Bernard Liotard and different people have put it in perspective for me that made me realize this is a key. It's not the key. It's a key to unlocking abundance in all these ways and not commodifying it. So to me, that's a really beautiful aspect of time banking is you don't put a monetary price on the work. And so being a musician, for example, it was a lot easier for me to set a price to offer piano lessons to friends and kids of friends, which is mainly the people I want to teach. It's a lot easier for me to have it be an hour per hour. And it totally changes the dynamic if a person earns their own lessons also. But so in terms of looking at price, like if I were charging a friend, I want to charge them a cheap price, but I also want to charge a lot for my time because it's a big commitment to have to be in the same place and commit to teaching a student every week. So it was always very socially difficult, emotionally, psychologically difficult to set a price. And then also creative work and care work is priceless. It also like really cheapens things a lot of times when you have to put a price on it. So time banking is really beautiful and elegant. And another aspect of time banking that I realize that I still think is very untapped potential, but time banking is and can be a way to really create a resource base for a community project without it being a grant, without it being the government decided to do it, a funder decided to do it, or we were able to write a giant proposal and get funding. So here in Madison, Wisconsin, in the Dane County Time Bank, we organized our time bank a lot to support the development of community restorative justice practices. So we had learned about a youth court in Washington, D.C. that had time banking as its basis. So we organized our time bank and we got members who were motivated to change, to create more opportunities for youth and to change some of the dynamics that we're creating to over policing. And they threw in their time and talents, whatever they were. And that was able to help us create a restorative justice youth court where young people could come and talk to their peers and get access to the kinds of support they needed to be on a better path, instead of getting a fine, going to the judge, getting sort of into the criminal system. So that was my entry into the world of serious economic redesign, and it led down this whole path that's turned into mutual aid networks. It was a long preamble, but to me, it's helpful context. That part will be shorter because I'll just go into some of the some of the mechanics of how mutual aid networks work and how they're being applied. But a lot of this mutual aid network concept arose out of needs and experiences that we saw within our time bank and within time banking. And also even the book, The Future of Money, and even starting the time bank overall, according to Bernard Lietaer and my perspective that was helped shape by that book, we need a variety of economic tools to fit different roles. The reason time banking is great for infinitely abundant things makes it also not the right thing to use in the context of a business, for example. So we'll go into some of those things. So what we've been doing with mutual aid networks is doing time banking in a different way, approaching it in a way that we think has the ability to spread farther, faster, more effectively, and really redesign our global economy. So I think I titled this talk Mutual Aid for a Neighborly Global Economy. So what we're aiming to do is take all those things that enabled me to live the life I want, have a local business that I think does fill an important role in the community, et cetera, make it way easier for that to happen for everyone else coming in with very different levels of privilege and access, and really like create the opportunity for everyone to live their highest and best life while they're here on this earth. So I'm going to pause for a moment and see if there are burning questions or anything else before I share my screen and dive into this, where we are today.
So if you have a question, please hit the reactions button and the raise hand, and it'll bring you to the top of our screen. Thanks.
I'm going to butt in here and ask, Stephanie, you went into restorative justice, and I wonder if you could just backtrack and how does one come to the restorative justice aspect of a kid, for instance?
Oh, how does a young person come to it? So it's, it had been that if they were eligible to receive a ticket from the police, a municipal ordinance violation, the officer, I mean, I guess this still happens and it's broadened actually, but the officer can just instead refer them to restorative justice, and they go see their peers. And now we're creating opportunities for direct referrals. So neighborhoods could refer, they could refer their own conflicts or things like that. And it's expanded citywide, and we're also working with adults now, including a homelessness restorative justice project. And I see, is this Mary Jo?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Leslie. This is really fascinating. And I've been interested in this topic for a long time. And you'll probably get into the practical aspects of how it works. But one of my questions is, if you have a person who really has a lot of needs and can't give back very much, you know, how do they fit into the system? Can other people volunteer to do their contribute their time for that person?
Yes, and I'll go into this more. We do, and we promote the view of time making being infinitely abundant, and it's exactly as abundant as it needs to be, and it's based on some core values, and it is the whole system, the balance of all the members always adds up to zero. So it's not like a direct barter system where like I do a ton of stuff for you and then you can't give back to me, so I get nothing from it. The whole system is together, is a network together. And so there's so in principle, people are encouraged to spend as much as they need, and other people can donate, and it's really not a big deal if someone has a big negative balance. The key is having enough people to participate and having the system have value to people and feel like it has value to people, so they are willing to give. And then there's some additional ways. So time banking isn't perfect, and nothing is, but there's some additional ways that I'll go into with mutual aid networks that we're looking to hybridize things. So if people need a level of care that's there aren't members available to do, that we have other ways that we can pool money and pay for stuff, and also build apprenticeships to build those skills. There's a real shortage of caregiving capacity in society right now. So we need to build the practice, and we need to build more people's skills, and we need to build a better picture for people who choose to go into that for a living. So hopefully you'll see in some of the mutual aid network stuff how we're aiming to connect things so we can do all those things at once, and use the economic tools we have to like create the comprehensive picture that's much more sophisticated than anything that's been happening yet. All right, so I'll jump in then. Seeing no other questions. So when I start sharing my slides, I'm going to sharing my screen. I'll start with slides, and I'm going to jump over to a video, and I'll just trust you to tell me if the sound doesn't work. So here we are, Humans United in Mutual Aid Networks. We called it Mutual Aid Networks on purpose because we want to be the man. So a lot of people go and do some drudgery working for the man, and we are interested in co-opting business as usual. So I think that we've all seen ways that business co-ops community life. We're going to go back the other direction. And that's one thing I was thinking about when I was putting this together, is realizing in a lot of circumstances, work has kind of taken us away from family and from community and from the sort of interdependent life. And I realize we're coming full circle now, and we want to use work to take us back there. So I think it's probably best for me to share my audio in a different way than I am. So let me just check that. All right, tell me if the audio doesn't work.
Tired of doing the same old job day after day, doing this when you'd rather be doing this? How would you like to do what you like to do? Well, now you can. Introducing mutual aid networks, or the new The Man.
The new The Man values everyone in all kinds of work, women's work too. Here's how it works. We come together as a cooperative or mutual aid network around a common goal: food security, clean energy, community justice, creative projects. We support each other in a network of mutual credit, and when we need things, we turn first to sharing, making and using things like maker spaces and tool libraries, then time banking, where we exchange time credits for abundant and necessary things like care, creativity, or community work, price-based mutual credit for local business, and savings pools for when we need money and can tap into a collectively managed pool of it. Then we add in the processes to make it all work, building the skills we need to come together, identify work that needs done, and make it happen. Learning how to apply our resource sharing tools effectively to our lives and our projects. Relearning how to figure out what we really want to do with our time, and then learning how to share our money and manage it well. We connect lots of individual man projects, large and small, in a network of mutual aid, the main man, eventually networking our networks into an economy that works for all of us. So 100%.
What would it look like if everyone were doing the work they loved, what they felt called to do? What if everyone had the opportunity to build their skills to their maximum capabilities and then apply them to making their communities whole and beautiful?
Let's find out. Join us. Launching now around the world.
There you go. So yes, some of those terms have changed. We don't call it the main man anymore. We call it the humans. And we felt like there was more than enough. Oops, let me make sure. More than enough main man energy around. Do you still hear me fine? Great.
Yes, fine.
I will not futz with it then. So yes, we are a giant cooperative now and also a network of cooperatives. So basically, what we wanted to do is recognize the whole ecosystem that's needed for valuing all the different kinds of work. So we are a cooperative, meaning that every member has a vote and every member owns the cooperative, has a say in the governance. And we're based on a number of core principles, and those are drawn from time banking principles, that all work is valuable, everyone has something to give, reciprocity is essential, everyone has needs, everyone has offers, but also voluntary and open membership, different cooperative principles, democratic member control, member economic participation, autonomy and independence of mutual aid networks, but also interdependence, cooperative education, training and information, mutual aid among mutual aid networks, knowledge sharing. So that's a big piece of what we realize is the problems that we're looking to solve. There are people around the world who have great ideas, and we can share and benefit from sharing knowledge and inspiration, material support. Also evaluation, open, transparent tracking and performance measures, shared open source tools and processes, and building community sustainability. So coming back to the idea of work, we have adopted some learning from a group of women in Belgium, actually, who had studied women's work essentially throughout time and space in our economy around the world, and sort of broke it down into 5 essential types of work. And one they called productive work, and we can think of it in all different terms. But a lot of times that's what people do to make the most money, but it really means what we do to feed and clothe and shelter our families. So it doesn't need to be what you earn money for, but in this culture, a lot of times that's what people go out and earn money for. But then there's community work, which I think we can identify what each of us means by that, but making sure that snow is shoveled on sidewalks and that kids aren't unsupervised after school, and that we are working to rectify the various problems that are coming up in our communities, from poverty, from lack of access, from lack of availability. Then caregiving, I think we all know what we mean by that, but caregiving for your own family members as well as other people in the community. Self-work might be practicing our skill, practicing piano so I can do a decent performance. It might be working on our anger management so we can be healthy participants in our community, getting a higher education. And then a lot of times what this group in Belgium found was that women also tended to have an additional job, and it tended to be women that would be keeping the balance with all these things. There's a lot of times like whatever you have coming in, be keeping the balance between all the types of work that need to be done and what actually you have access to resource wise. So we put our little man in here. So we want mutual aid networks to help take on the role of keeping the balance, and partly because we're tapping into the variety of different types of economic supports. So as it said in the video, we focus on these 4 on the vertical and horizontal axis are more like the tools, the financial tools, sharing, time banking, price-based mutual credit, and then the common fund is pooling money and lending or giving it out. But then these on the sort of X, on the diagonal axis are more about the social practices. And we are a community of communities of practice. So the Humans Global Network, we do things to actively connect people who are working on these things or wanting to work on these things. So I'll show you that in a minute. We talked about this in the video, so we'll skip over it. But basically, this is just an example of we called it in the video robust budgeting, and now we call it posterity budgeting, how you can have a posh life on an austerity budget for yourself or your projects. And we use this pyramid of abundance and it's just a basic framework of everything that we do. We look at how can we tap or create the most abundance. So and the most abundant way to build abundance and share in abundance is share. The next level is time bank or swap, of loose and easy, exchanging time for time or stuff for stuff. The next level is other forms of mutual credit, and there are other community currencies. I won't go into that a lot. We can if you want to later, but I'll see where the energy is with the group. The common fund is pooling money. So there's no reason everyone should have to have their own private stash of money in case of emergency. If we know that we can create some pools of money and it can be available to people in case of emergency. So that has worked a lot throughout history, and the insurance agencies borrowed the idea and privatized it a great deal, but there's a lot that we can do to pool the risk. And then we always say at the bottom of this, all else fails, get a effing job. And people are doing good work. People are paid to do good work, but a lot of people are being paid to destroy the planet. They're being paid to do things that are self-destructive or destructive to their communities. A lot of the investment that people make in nonprofit work is to undo the damage being wrought by their investments on Wall Street. So we really are aiming to create opportunities that people can walk out of effing destructive jobs and into good work. And then if I have a job at the Quick Trip and I can see through my posterity budget that I actually could work 15 hours instead of 30 hours a week and meet all my needs in these healthier ways, then that opens 15 hours for someone else to work at that job. So there are ways that we can do some voluntary, joyful wealth redistribution and also some voluntary, joyful redesign of how we interact with the exploitation economy. So anyhow, what I'm aiming to show you is sort of a more integrated picture of how these things, by really explicitly recognizing the role that different economic tools can play in our lives, we can create a healthier balance for ourselves. So as we do our posterity budget, we also are seeing how we can redesign our work lives to be much more satisfying. Then I also want to give some recognition to the current moment of the Great Resignation and the massive wealth transfers that just happened during the COVID era. In case you're not aware, it's been the biggest transfer of wealth. It's been the biggest redistributing upward. It's been a giant closure of small businesses, a giant closure of independent theater and art and music, a giant disruption of momentum. So it's a good opportunity to take advantage of that moment and start more where we know we need to be anyhow, with like real opportunities for people to have, I call it a lively humanhood now, a gainful, lively humanhood doing the work of restoring community, the work of creating the levels of caregiving that we need currently and will need more as our population ages and more people suffer health impacts of, variety of things. So there are a lot of ways we can take these models and spring up some healthy multi-stakeholder mutual aid network style co-ops to do the things like provide caregiving in way healthier and more enjoyable, more inclusive ways. For example, beautify our neighborhoods, grow the plants we need that reduce our energy consumption and increase our access to healthy food and herbal medicines and the kinds of knowledge that people have to share and just haven't had the opportunity. So our strategy is we make individual mutual aid networks. I don't know if you can quite see them, but they look like the little balls of yarn here. And these were our partner sites when we first launched. A little one in South Africa, England, around the US and New Zealand. And now we're adding more sisters and partners. But we create networks of real trust based in communities of place or practice or interest. And then we create networks of real trust between them because we're using mutually beneficial exchange and sharing and knowledge sharing. And I also learned a new quote from a new partner of ours that we met in the UK recently, who said, when people don't have the material interdependencies, they tend to get stuck on what Freud called the narcissism of small differences. And I think that we have a serious issue with that around the world right now, where we have lost sight of our interdependency overall. And of course, it goes way beyond the material, but the material also, we've lost sight of our interdependency. And so we tend to be very focused on the narcissism of small differences. I believe, and I've seen it in action, and hopefully you've seen it in your experience, Penny. For me, time banking was really an experiential learning tool to see how much it broke down demographic barriers and how much it created opportunities for come together based on strengths and based on a positive vision, and how much that changes the dynamic between people. So I know that not only can we create a neighborly global economy that meets our material needs, spiritual, emotional, psychological, creative, that meets those needs, but it can break down those kinds of intense barriers people have been seeing with each other. And I know that it can get some of these differences to fall away off the sides of the like 90% that people share in common values. So that's our dissemination and networking strategy. We, in a very tangible way, you can join the humans, you can become members, you can share in that global marketplace. You can create a sister site or connect with a sister site. You, as your organization, can be a partner. You can join any online learning and skill sharing opportunities, and we have them really regularly, like several times a week, plus quarterly. We host a Solidarity Summit. That's a way for people to like really coalesce. We have an email list. So there are ways that you can dip a toe in, or are there ways that you can dive in? So what I'm going to do is pause on this. I'll share the link to the slides in case you want to look at them. And I would love, I'll be happy to take questions first. And then what I would love to do though is hear from you about your dreams for your community, whether it's this community who's gathered here together, or whether you want to talk about some dreams for local communities, and we can sort of do a little visioning about how these things could apply to you. But I'll pause before that and see what you want with questions, answer, etc.
Okay, Cheryl.
Thank you. A lot of people don't realize that in the United States of America, we had something called, in the 13 colonies, something called colonial script, which if you didn't use it, it lost value. And Benjamin Franklin made the mistake of talking about it when he visited in Europe. And the Bank of London said, not only no, but hell no, and actually implemented laws that made it illegal to do colonial script. So the two things I really want to say about this, and I want to learn more, and I want to pass this, I want to be an information conduit is what I would like to do. Say there is a different way of living, a different economic system, because our economic system right now rewards all the deadly sins. Okay. And it destroys community, because every time you pay for something, it becomes a transaction, and we commoditize ourselves. Think of an influencer. Their job is to become a commodity and sell commodities. And we're human beings. And the stuff that's very important just for our existence on this planet is stuff that doesn't receive, in most respects, receives no monetary remuneration. I can never say that word correct. But anyway, so, and I myself, I was in marketing all my life. And marketing to me is a totally destructive occupation. It really is. And so this just lights me up. And what I would like to be doing is, I'm retired, I'm 73 years old, but I am engaged in a lot of discussion groups, and I want to spread this idea. That's what I would like to do.
Yay. Excellent. We'll pay you out human hours for your time. Seriously, we would gladly do that. You know, again, I didn't say this way, but I see this as a way to hire each other to build the world we want to live in, and we can just do it right now. And go ahead, Mary Jo. Or Bob, I'll let you facilitate, sorry.
That's okay. Mary Jo, go ahead.
Yeah, this is so exciting and energizing. As a person who has been in activism, for many years, I feel that oftentimes that energy of what we're against, continues to divide the community. Where if we have images of what we're all for, like you said earlier, we can bring the community together. So in my small town that I just recently moved to outside of Ann Arbor, we used to have a sustainability commission that was then, disenfranchised, a couple of years ago. And so I feel like this is a place where I might be able to make an impact, is to try to meet with people to see if we can get the Sustainability Commission up and running. And then, have videos or talks or something by people like you, that would go into the newspaper, and say, this is what this group is looking at right now. Anyone interested in this topic? I've always had the dream, because we're outside of Detroit, and I know Detroit is now one of the Rust Belt cities that has the highest rate of activists, in the country living there, that there's just so many exciting things going on. But yet, even though we're only 45 minutes away, I have no way to really connect with any of the things that are going on in Ann Arbor. So for years, I've said, let's charter a bus and get a group of people, and we pay $30 or something. We drive in, we can contribute some money to projects, we can talk to people, they can come to our community. So I really am excited about this way of building community, but it's very challenging. It's very challenging to get people to, kind of explore it. And at one point we introduced the UK model of the transition towns to our town. It was very exciting, but again, it only was, kind of understood by a small group of people. And so if you have any ideas about how to kind of build a momentum in a community, I would be really interested in that.
Yes. Yeah. I'd like to reply to that and then go to the next question, if that's okay. Is that all right?
Sure.
So that's like key, and we're trying to help crack it. It's been very hard. It's hard in general. And so I'm going to be going to Toledo, I think, in April, and doing some talks and stuff there. And then we're also looking and we've spent some time in Detroit too, and have some partners in Ann Arbor who want to get stuff going. So in June right now, we're just getting going, thinking it's very likely we're going to do some regional gatherings. So there'd be at least a Midwestern gathering and maybe a few stops. We've done things a couple times called solidarity sprints, where we go to a few different stops. So we build it around what people want to do and have energy for. So we could talk more about if you want to do something in June, and we could work toward it. And yeah, it's really tricky. So there've been a ton of, we have a lot of like friends and partners in Detroit, but nothing's coalesced into this kind of like ongoing connection between things. But then there are always a ton of informal connections that are happening between things that are bearing a lot of fruit. So it's easy to feel frustrated, and those things are happening. But yeah, we need to knit them together so more people can jump in. And then I've found it's just really important to have a consistent presence and do things over and over and over and over and over, so more different people can join in, and you never get all the people in the room at once. And it builds over time, and you see results over time. They just didn't look like the straightforward the thing we might think they will at sometimes. Cool.
Thanks.
Right, go ahead, Rollo, unmute.
I had to unmute myself, excuse me. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. The whole idea of mutual aid and networks strikes an important chord in my heart, having read Kropotkin, and that whole tradition of decentralization. But what's critical here is that you're taking it from the parlor into the community, and really you have concrete examples. When I share these ideas with others, well, where's this happening? I have some friends in New Orleans, or if I'm in Berkeley, I can go to the cheese board and share cooperative pizza and delicious food with others. But I think we need a network that shares and invites people to see the work in practice. And what you're sharing is your work in practice as a lived experience rather than an abstraction, and the building of community. And how do you document this so that you can share it more with others? How does that, I see that you have a blog, but how does that, I think one person implied, how do we do a tour where when we're driving up the West Coast and of the United States or the Midwest, we can go see these different communities and mutual aid works doing things and bring it back home, or even within I live in Portland, Oregon, so within Portland, how are those mutual aid networks working? So you've evoked a lot of questions in my mind, because I really love what you're doing, and I'm a retired academic, so I can live comfortably on the edge, so to speak, and take advantage of the current capitalist structures. But I am very supportive of what you're doing, and would love to point youth and other friends into there are new ways of being. You're just bubbling with possibilities. But thank you for the actual lived practice.
Sure, thank you. I'll show you another thing on my screen, if that's okay, to show you how these things are going to be shared, and are currently shared. So I didn't say this quite explicitly, but I mentioned that I was running the time bank, and then we created this mutual aid network infrastructure or structure. And that was deliberately a research and development project out of the time bank, like looking at how to recontextualize time banking. And one of the things that we realized pretty early on, so we actually had a whole proposal that included digesting a lot of the existing research about time banking and other kinds of currency models and stuff as the first phase, and then moving into these other phases of shared experimentation. But we realized really quickly we had already digested a lot of what was available studying time banks and complementary currencies. And what we saw really lacking was the sharing of experiments. So yeah, so a lot of what we've come to has ended up leading us here. And one of the things that I've realized is it's really challenging to steward a project. It's challenging to start something and see it through, have it come to fruition and keep it going. And I think we see that over and over, that dynamic with community projects. And then my perspective is you end up starting a nonprofit, and nonprofit dynamics eat the mission. I think it's built for mission drift. You have to capture subsidy and administer an organization and keep capturing subsidy, and it eats activism, in my view. So we knew early on we wanted to become a cooperative. And another thing that we realize is that we cannot create a situation where it feels like an additional job for people to share their stuff. And so for me, this Humans at Home link, I'll share this link so you can come back to it later, but this Humans at Home thing. So we are now a key part of a larger multi-stakeholder cooperative, and multi-stakeholder just means that we're not defining people, or like any part of the economic equation, you can be part of the co-op. It's not just producers or just consumers or just growers. It's all the stakeholders. And for us, it's really also really philosophically important. We want to stop defining people by the role they're playing in economic life. We are humans. Yes, economy exists to serve us as humans, not the other way around. And that is how we will live it from now on. So what we are doing in this cooperative, we call it the homeostatic mutual environment. And we have partners in Slovenia and the UK and Italy who are making this a reality. But what we've done is we've put together a number of open source tech tools, and we're hacking them to connect them effectively. But some of the tools, and then we're inviting members. So we're inviting individuals and organizations and projects to be members, and we can both give you access to the tools and be co-creating a peer support network to use them. So I use this project management stuff all the time right now, and it really organizes a lot of different work. And you'll see when it finally loads, you'll see that different mutual aid networks use it and don't use it to different degrees, but it's just graduated into a whole new realm of usefulness. But for me, this manages contacts. I can keep track of contacts, make different email lists, make discuss lists. So any project that's just being born, people can be fleshing it out here. Here's community justice and peace building, and we have subtasks, and we can start a timer and time our work. And so we can be paying people back time bank hours, or invoicing for money if you're going to contract with someone, or using other forms of mutual credit. And then this knowledge thing, we haven't really organized it yet, but so far, like, this is all the documents that are shared by all the projects. So any other project can go and look and see what's here about justice and can find those. So again, the aim is to ease people's ability to do this kind of work and have it kind of built in that mutual credit will be easy, time banking will be easy, knowledge sharing will be easy. And so then you in Portland could point to other organizations, so that we also have a marketplace. And when you join, you add offers and wants to this marketplace. We're working with tech backend. So here's our global marketplace. And then in Madison, this is our local marketplace. And we're working with people in this cooperative global tech environment to have it so offers and wants can show between different marketplaces. And we're aiming to build partnerships, for example, with timebanks.org and other organizations. So you in Portland could look and see all the offers and needs from any network that are close enough to Portland. And you might actually need graphic design, so you might want to get that from somewhere totally different if the most available person or talented person is elsewhere. So yes, we're working also on breaking down some of those barriers between specific local networks and global networks. So you could join a time bank that's hosted by a hospital that has very rigid requirements of their members because of the hospital context, but then you could have agency to have your offers and needs shown much more broadly. So I will pause it there, but you're all invited to join. Anytime. So there are different member levels. So a basic membership, you can just be in the marketplace and getting invited to our different events. A dreamer level, you can be part of a cohort that's working together to achieve your own mutual aid dreams. And that's something that we've just created and are just co-creating with some other sites now, and you can be a sister site. So yeah, I'm curious if you want to do a go round and throw out dreams or needs, and if there are things that you see that could apply, or you want to do a quick brainstorm before closing. I know we end in 22 minutes, but I want to see if there are other things that I know you want to probably have a close maybe at 25 after, Bob.
Usually it's about then, yes.
Okay, so can we just go around? Yeah, Jean, you go first with whatever you're thinking, and then we'll see.
Okay, does it make
You're
sense?
still on mute?
Does it make sense to stop your share and so we
Oh,
can?
yeah, sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. This is a dream I have, not fully formed, but I have a desire to help elders like myself to connect, and conscious aging movement is something that I've been a part of for many years and used to lead that. And I would like to know, would this be a fit for something in this vein?
Yes, absolutely. I think so a lot of the ways that time banking has been applied started and originated with elder care, and especially younger elders, more able-bodied, supporting older elders and banking time for their own support. And then it's great for intergenerational connection, the whole mutual aid picture and time banking. And we're about to apply again for an AARP grant, and have a vision here for a health and wellness network. So I know that it could apply to any kind of dream. It just, so do you want to share any more about what you're looking to do?
Well, first of all, I was wondering if there's somebody in the time bank that would be able to consult with me about I'm in Madison, in this area, brainstorm with me about how to do this, organize
You're in
it.
Madison, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We already have a group of people meeting for a health and care network, and this is where we're applying for the AARP grant. If you would like to help shape that, you're more than welcome to do that. But yes, I would like to brainstorm with you, and I know other members of ours who would like to brainstorm.
Okay, how do I connect with you on that? Is there
I will, yeah, I'll put my email in here for everyone. I have my work email just comes to my personal address. So there's my work email and my personal email in case. And the Madison Mutual Aid Network is up and running, and you are welcome to join anytime. So there are all three.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's a dream we already can get behind. Who wants to share another dream for this community or your own community? Let's just, we can just hear a little bit and then go into some possibilities or some correlating models. Let's pretend we're in a circle and you
Jean,
can.
are you raising your hand again, or?
You're on mute if you wanted to be saying something, Jean.
How do I get rid of the hand?
Oh,
Oh.
I can do that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I see now. I could lower it. All right. Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna pretend that we're in a circle and I'm passing the talking piece. And if, when you get the talking piece, you can say pass if you want, or you can say your own dream, and then you can pass the talking piece on. So I'm passing the piece to Penny. What's your dream?
All right, I'm out in Cottage Grove, and I'm wondering how small communities could begin to step into this kind of mutual support.
So we're just taking a neighborhood by neighborhood approach wherever somebody wants to organize something. So we have some little draft invitations to invite people in your community there. And we have some standard practices that we've done where we just like help host a little party or potluck and introduce people to the idea. And that's how we started the Time Bank, and that's how we're revitalizing neighborhood-based work. And sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. So but I think we can learn from the times that it hasn't stuck to do better. But that's generally what we do, is think through based on where you are, how to get the word out to people. It's usually dropping some flyers at doors, putting some up at a couple public places. Sometimes it's the little neighborhood papers, and then have, you know, find a little public place that people would feel welcome and have some food and introduce the idea and have a matching game to see what people are wanting, what they offer, what they need, what they want for their community. So it's really just applying the steps that have worked for us, trying to adapt it to what you need, and always go with a local person and see what we can spring up.
Have you ever networked churches?
Yeah, somewhat. And we haven't had, so it's just the key to success is completely if there's someone within the church who's motivated for it. So one of the things that I found when we've done more sort of cold calling is that a lot of churches have a solid social infrastructure themselves and don't need outside assistance. But when we've had churches, so St. Paul on the north side in Madison really adopted it for a while to like build opportunities. So they had people from the Time Bank come and teach computer classes to seniors. And yeah, they did a bunch of stuff. Lakeview Lutheran Church, we used to use space, and then they would tap into it. Yeah, there are a few different ones, but each time it was when there was a staff person or a very embedded church member wanting to do it. And we have connections also with James Reeb Unitarian Church, but more on the programming side sometimes. So it just making those, with all the organizational partnerships, my experience has been really finding an offer and a need that can be functionally connected is the key to making it go, and having someone that sees that benefit in the organization.
I guess one more question occurs is, do you work with refugees, or is anywhere, I keep thinking that with the amount of refugees out there in the world, that with their internal mutual aid feels like a critical piece of this.
Agreed. So Hull UK is our sister site that's done the most active stuff with refugees, and we just talked with them recently about the idea of uniting in some ways about this topic. Like, one of the things that keeps coming up is the way that different countries will like warehouse people who've come as refugees and not let them cook, and not give them access to decent food. And so the whole project has been doing some cool stuff with meal sharing in refugee communities. So it's people from outside and inside the refugee community sharing meals together and sharing recipes, and it's really doing some cool stuff. So yes, the need's huge, and there's a big ripple all around the world, and it's just a way for us to find the best ways to link up and see good practices and find out our own local possibilities. Who will you pass the talking piece to, Penny?
Oh, let me go in gallery. How about, oh, Marianne. Marianne's, if she's still with us. Yeah, Marianne. Marianne's
She's
new to
here.
a community, and in some ways, people that are new to their community, they're seeing with new eyes, and sometimes that could be an advantage, I'm guessing.
That might be nice if that were an advantage. So my dream is building labyrinths, and on different levels. And I know labyrinth builders, they don't live right here. The closest one lives 3 hours away. I have bartered. Like 30 years ago, I got really interested in this, and this really works. I mean, what I was doing, you might say, was for very just private, personal, selfish reasons. I had dental work done. I did dream work. I had a spiritual director, and because I was a massage therapist, we traded. It was just wonderful. So that's my my dream, and I suppose if it were either a simple design I could lay out, or I mean it's not that hard. I really, it's not that hard. You have to get the stones in the ground, or you have to decide what kind you want. So that's kind of my dream. But what you're doing, Stephanie, is so exciting, and it just, you go, girl.
Thanks. I have no idea if this is what you would want to do, but I'm applying my own dream to your dream, which is when we are running at full capacity, we have the infrastructure for this already. You could be in the home marketplace saying you like to build labyrinths, and someone in Philadelphia might want a labyrinth, or in the UK might want a labyrinth for an event. They might want you to show people how to do it. They would see if you were up for that. You could use air miles that are exchanged in the network. There are people who have like frequent flyer miles to exchange. Could use air miles and get your trip there paid. You could be hosted by someone there, get a vacation there if you would like to, build the labyrinth, share that skill, and come back having earned time and gotten a free vacation, and maybe earned something else that you need beyond that. So or maybe just having had a vacation to a place that you would love to go without having paid any dollars. So all just depending on what you want and need for your life.
So do people also, like, I facilitate labyrinth walks. I mean, I guess people need, exchange all different sorts of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the more, the better. Yeah. And the most commonly exchanged things in local exchanges tend to be transportation and companionship and care. I didn't stress explicitly, but time banking, and mutual aid stuff generally, but time banking is very good with very good tool for creating situations where people with disabilities are invited to engage much more fully in community life. Would you like to pass the talking piece to another person? And everyone, you're welcome to pass if you get it passed to you.
Is Gail still here? I'd like to hear what Gail's thinking. Yeah?
On mute.
Oh, Zoom has a mind of its own. Sorry. Gosh, okay, there we go. So, thank you. Thank you, Marianne. I'm thinking about, checking out with what's going on in a town here around Boston that is was a transition town, and the webpage was all about being a transition town. And that, it was a suburban town. But I'm also thinking about here where I live in my apartment complex, which this is my third year and I hardly know anybody. I mean, I try really hard, but it is Boston. And so but I'm finding some. I have a toddler next door and I found another family with 3 kids. And so I'm just thinking of trying to do something with that. I mean, we need to meet each other and we need to know what we can give to each other. And so I think the time bank seems the easiest way to explain things. But I'll give it a try. I've been planning to have a festive party out in the courtyard for a while now. So I think I'll make myself do that as soon as we can get out of, winter. That's what I'm
Nice.
thinking. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. It only stays in gallery for a second here. So let's see. Okay, it's gone. Got lots of you and me, Stephanie. That's okay. So, well, Helene, how about you, Helene? You want to tell us something? Are you still
Yes,
here?
thanks, Gail. Thanks, Gail. I'm from Pittsburgh, and one of the I have a mental health background. And one of the things I've always thought of since my early days in mental health was that, most of us know about AA, Alcohol Anonymous, NA, Narcotics Anonymous, etc. But there has never been, that I know of, I think there have been efforts here and there, but they've never kind of materialized to the extent of AA or NA. I mean, where you can go to, you can go to Boston, you can go to New York, and you go to a meeting. And so what about Emotions Anonymous? What about the folks that really need help and really need a supportive system and a community? And so it's always since my 20s, I thought about that. Why doesn't somebody start something like that?
Awesome. I was just thinking Listeners Anonymous, anytime you
Yeah.
need to go get listened to.
Yeah.
Well, excellent thing. So if you would like to, so every Friday we have Dream Time. We'll probably start shifting the time to accommodate different schedules, but it's really for people, the idea is you bring whatever your dream is, and we see how we can apply mutual aid tools and how different people can play supporting roles in your dream. But I think it sounds great, and it is the kind of thing that people have brought up a number of times. And our Hull, I always mention our Hull sister site because they're so great, but they made this thing called the Conversation Couch that they built, and they take it around to public and just have people come and sit with them on it. But I love the idea of standing meetings. There's another group here that does something called walkie talkies, where people know they can show up at a certain time and walk and talk together. And walking and not looking right at each other seems to unlock something special. That's a beautiful idea. Anything else about moving on that, or any other dreams you want to share before passing the talking piece?
No, I'd be interested in knowing if there are any other people in other networks that have similar interests as that, and because it would it would take some folks that are dedicated to launch it in some way in some places. Yeah. And the other thing is that it's easier to launch these days since we have a Zoom, if people have computers. Most people do, or phones, most people do, I guess. Yeah. So thanks.
So I'll invite any of you who want to join the humans. We have a Solidarity Summit every quarter, so we'll have one in March. We often share tips and materials in case people want to invite people to get together in person, because we always want to be building toward something. So if you think that you want to connect some local people and test the waters, we're happy to help with that, or not, as you wish. And sometimes it's nice to have it coalesce around something like the Solidarity Summit or something like that. And then also you could always put, if you wanted to join the marketplace, you could put an offer request to find people who want to help launch something like that. So just some thoughts. It is all these things that have come up are common dreams to a lot of people who do tend to participate. And so now I will turn it back over to Bob and Gail so you can.
Okay, thanks very much, Stephanie, and thanks for sharing your contact information in the chat. I believe Penny has some closing words for us.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm reminded of this phrase, moving outward towards. And it feels like a time where we're beginning to remember what some of us grew up with a little more than we see today. And I thought these words from Clarissa Pinkola Estes might be a way to close us all out. It's called A Simple Prayer for Remembering. We do not become healers. We came as healers. We are. Some of us are still catching up to what we are. We do not become storytellers. We came as carriers of the stories we and our ancestors actually lived. We are. Some of us are still catching up to what we are. We do not become artists. We came as artists. We are. Some of us are still catching up to what we are. We do not become writers, dancers, musicians, helpers, peacemakers. We came as such. We are. Some of us are still catching up to what we are. We do not learn to love in this sense. We came as love. We are love. Some of us are still catching up to who we truly are. Next month, we are welcoming Dwayne Elgin, and it should be a wonderful time together. And we'll be going back to the first Thursday of the month. So please join us if you can and spread the word. Thank you for a great session. I think from the chats I'm seeing, this has been really well received. So thank you.
It's wonderful, really, it was wonderful that getting us to talk at the end was so important. It's so wise to do that. It creates, of course, commitment. It's wonderful. Thank you for doing all this, Stephanie.
Thank you. It was good to meet you. Hopefully I'll hear from those of you sometime who we didn't hear from today also, and hopefully you'll all stay in touch. So thanks, and thanks a lot, Penny, for catalyzing this, and then Gail and Bob for helping make it happen.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone here today and who contributed to the chat. And hopefully we'll see you again next month or in the future.
Bye-bye.